Section 4.2, writing equations of lines. It's not the actual title of section 4.2. This is kind of my own section. 4.2 in the textbook is about point slope form, and I'm not a big fan of point slope form. I don't think it's very necessary. So we're going to skip point slope form and work a different angle to accomplish the same thing. So in section 4.1, we wrote equations of lines in slope-intercept form, but in every one of those problems you were given a point that is the y-intercept, or on the y-axis. Okay, so in section 4.2, you're still going to be given the slope sometimes, but the point you're going to be given is not the y-intercept. So we actually have to go find the y-intercept, and your steps are outlined right here. So step number 1, plug in x, y, and m, because the point that they give you will fill in x and y, and they will also give you the slope. Remember, slope is letter m. Plug it into slope-intercept form. Once you do that, solve for b, and then once you've got b, you can write your final equation. Okay, so let's try a couple here. Number 1, the slope is 1/4, and we're going through the point -8, +3. So this is m, obviously. Your -8, that's x. The 3 is going to be y. So when we use slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, the only thing we don't know is b, because the y is filled in, the m will be filled in, and so will the x. So let's plug everything in. So we know the y value is 3. The m is 1/4. The x comes from the point that's -8. And then we don't know b. That's the only thing we don't know. Okay, so there's step 1. Plug in x, y, and m into slope-intercept form. Step number 2, solve for b. So this is just basic algebra. So we're going to have 3 equals 1/4 times -8 is -2 plus b. This is a single-step equation. We're going to add 2 to both sides, plus 2. 3 plus 2 is 5, and that is equal to b. So there's step 2, solve for b. So let's see, I did step 1 in red, step 2 was in green, step 3, write our final equation. And I'll do that... we'll do that in blue. Okay, so we're going to have y equals, we're going to start with, go back to the slope, 1/4 x, and then your y-intercept, +5. And that's your answer right there. Y equals 1/4 x plus 5. Let's try another one here. M equals 2, and we're going through the point 3, -1. So remember, this is m, obviously, right here. This will be x, this will be, not b, sorry, that is y. Okay, so we're going to have y equals mx plus b. Plug in what you know. We know the y value is -1, the m value is -2, the x is +3, and the b, well, we don't know that. That's what we have to find. Okay, so let's see, next color is green, so -2 times 3 is -6 plus b. Again, a single step equation from here. Add 6 to both sides. -1 plus 6. Well, we actually get +5 again for our answer. That's not going to happen every time, just an accident or a coincidence. So we can write our final answer. We need our slope. We need our y-intercept. Y equals -2x plus 5. So if you're given a slope and a y-intercept, or sorry, a slope and a point, it's not that difficult to find the y-intercept. But we need to take this a step further. What if we're given 2 points and neither of them are on the y-axis? Because at the end of section 1, you were given 2 points, but one of them had an x value of 0, meaning it was on the y-axis. Well, now we need to look at the case when neither of them are on the y-axis, and it just adds one extra step to our process. Okay, step number 1, find the slope between the 2 points. Makes sense. Step number 2, choose either point to substitute into the slope-intercept form. Again, it's not going to matter. Step number 3, solve for the y-intercept. Step number 4, write the final equation. So steps 2, 3, and 4 are steps 1, 2, and 3 from the last slide. So we're not really changing anything other than adding one step to the beginning. Okay, so number 1, write the equation line that passes through the given points. So our points are 1, 2, and 3, -2. First thing we need to do is find the slope. And I'm going to go this way to find the slope. Okay, remember, to find slope, we subtract our y's, 2 minus -2, and then we subtract our x's, 1 minus 3. 2 minus -2, same thing as 2 plus 2, that is 4. 1 minus 3, that's -2. 4 divided by -2 is -2. So I've got my slope of -2. Now, step number 2, then, choose either point and substitute into slope-intercept form. I'm going to choose the point that's got positives and are slightly a little smaller. Okay, so think about y equals mx plus b. We now have m right there. This is going to be my x. This is going to be my y. Okay, so plug in what we know. We know the y value is going to be 2. Our m is -2. Our x is 1. And then we don't know b. Again, that's what we're going to have to find at the very end. Step number 3, solve for b. Well, -2 times 1 is -2, plus b is equal to 2. We're going to add 2 to both sides, which tells me that b is equal to 4. Okay, and then we can write our final answer. Y equals our slope of negative 2, x plus 4. Okay, do another one. Number 2 here. Negative 2, negative 6, and 4, 6. So I'm going to go this way this time when we find our slope. So it's going to be 6 minus negative 6 over, let's see, 4 minus negative 2. Remember, it's y's over x's. 6 minus negative 6 is positive 12. 4 minus negative 2 is 6. 12 divided by 6, that would be 2. Okay, go ahead, substitute things in. This was m equals, by the way. So substitute things in. I'm going to use that point. The one on the right, doesn't matter which one, but you get the same answer either way. So it's going to be y equals, so my y is 6, my m is 2, my x is 4, and then the only thing I don't know is b. That's what I need to find next. Okay, that's step number 3. So we'll have 6 equals 8 plus b. Subtract the 8, and that tells us that b is negative 2. And then we can write our final answer. Y equals our slope of 2x, and then our y-intercept of negative 2. So 2x minus 2 for number 2. All right. Again, we need to think about function notation. Okay, so function notation, if it gives you the problem in function notation, your answer needs to be in function notation. But before we can do anything, we should probably turn this function notation into ordered pairs. Okay, so f of 4 equals 2 is the point 4, negative 2, and f of 8 equals 4 is the point 8, 4. Okay, so first thing we need to do, find the slope. I'm going to go from left to right this time, so m is equal to, do our y's first, negative 2 minus 4, and then our x's, 4 minus 8. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Negative 6 divided by negative 4. Negative over negative is a positive. 6 over 4 simplifies down into 3 over 2. Once we have our slope, we can pick one of our points. I'm going to choose the one with the smaller values, plug everything in. So my y value is negative 2 equals my m of 3 over 2. My x is 4, and then I need to find b. 3 halves times 4, think of that as 3 over 2 times 4 over 1. 3 times 4 is 12. 2 times 1 is 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6 plus b, and that's equal to negative 2. Should be doing this in green, actually. So subtract negative 6. That leaves me with negative 8. So b is equal to negative 8. Now, when we write our answer, remember, it's got to be in function notation because our original problem was in function notation. So it's going to be f of x instead of y is equal to our slope, 3 halves x, and then our y-intercept, negative 8. So f of x equals 3 halves x minus 8. Let's try another one here. G of 1 equals 4, and g of 3 equals 10. So, again, turn your function notation into ordered pairs, 1, 4, and 3, 10, and we need to find the slope. So I'm going to go from left to right again. So it's going to be 4 minus 10 over 1 minus 3. 4 minus 10 is negative 6. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Negative 6 divided by negative 2 is a positive 3. So once I've got my slope, I can find my b. I'm going to plug everything in. I'm going to use the smaller point. So 4 equals my slope of 3 times my x value of 1 plus b. Let's solve for b. 3 times 1 is 3 plus b. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. That tells me that b is equal to 1. And then I can write my final answer. Now, instead of f of x like in the previous one, I'm going to use g of x because the problem tells me g of 3. So it's going to be g of x is equal to my slope of 3, so 3x, and then my y-intercept of 1. So all these problems are very similar to the ones we did in section 4.1. We're just kind of adding an extra step to it. Let's look at one story problem here. To ride a taxi, you pay a start fee and a mileage fee. The table shows the total cost of a ride of different distances. So the top row is the distance in miles. So if I go 4 miles, it cost me $13. 8 miles cost me $23. 10 miles is $28, and 12 miles would cost me $33. Question number 1, can the situation be modeled by a linear equation? Well, if it's linear, what that means is that the rate of change from x to y, or from each x to each y, from point to point, is going to be the same. The slope is going to be the same. So if I go from 4 to 8, that's plus 4. 13 to 23 is plus 10. 8 to 10, that's plus 2. 23 to 28 is plus 5. Now the question is, are these the same? Going from 4 to 8 13 to 23, and then going from 8 to 10 to 23 over 28? The answer here is yes, because if we think about slope, change in y is 5, change in x is 2, change in y is 10, change in x is 4. 10 over 4 simplifies down to 5 over 2. So the question, can the situation be modeled by a linear equation? The answer is yes. It is a constant rate of change. Okay? Constant rate, let me slide this up a little bit, of change. Okay? It's a constant rate of change. Whether or not we go up 10 and up 4 or up 5 and up 2, then it really doesn't matter. Okay? The rate of change is constant from one point to the next. So once we know that it's linear, then we can go ahead and answer number 2. Write a linear model that represents the cost as a function of the number of miles. So I would treat these as x's, treat the bottom row as y's, and we've got ordered pairs. And I'm going to use these two ordered pairs specifically. Okay? So I'm going to have 4, 13. That's 1 point. 4, 13. And the other point was 8, 23. 8, 23. Well, I've got 2 points. I need to write the equation of the line. So let's find the slope. That's the first thing we need to find. So my slope, 13 minus 23 over 8. Whoops, not 8 minus 4. That's the wrong order. 4 minus 8. 13 minus 23 is negative 10. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Negative over negative cancels out. They're both positives. And then 10 over 4 simplifies down into 5 over 2. So I have a slope of 5 halves, 5 over 2. So once I have my slope, then I need to find my y-intercept. My colors are all sorts of screwed up, but I can go back to red here. So I'll use 4 13 just because they're smaller. So my y value is 13 equals, let's see, my slope is 5 halves. My x value is 4. We can make that 4 over 1. Think about what we're going to be doing next, and then plus b. We need to find our y-intercept. So let's see, 5 over 4, or 5 halves times 4 over 1. 5 times 4 is 20. 2 times 1 is 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So that's 13 equals 10 plus b. And then we just need to solve for b. We're going to do that by subtracting 10 from both sides. 13 minus 10 is 3 equals b. So we can write our final answer, y equals, or we could make it c equals for cost, equals 5 halves. That we're thinking about money here. So we don't necessarily need to use a fraction here. 5 over 2, if you want to write that as a decimal, would be 2.5 or $2.50 x. And then plus 3. So what this tells me is that if you want some context for this question, the $2.50, so $2.50 per mile, that's what the 250x means. And then let me change colors one more time. Let's go to brown. The plus 3, we can call that, I think that called that the start fee in the setup. So just to get in the cab costs you $3, and then it's $2.50 per mile to ride in that taxi.